I had an opportunity to meet with some of the veteran deans, and they really gave me, that was back in November, and they gave me some history of the counseling and how they all started out with type 73s in the counseling field and that. And then in 1983, when I was actually a junior in high school, they that's when they became administrators. And so they advise and they counsel, and the advising piece has to go along with helping students select what courses and what course of study they're going to take and so forth. And so one thing that we have instilled this year, along with Teaching and Learning Symposium, is that now all administrators come and meet once a month from 4 to 6, and we give them kind of like an abbreviated overview of our 3-day symposium learning, so that they can know what's supposed to be going on in the classroom, so that they can better talk to parents about classroom experiences and better advise students. Another piece is the registration and scheduling that the guidance offices have to do, looking at transcripts and looking at those transcripts. I know I remember looking at them quarterly and then at every progress period. So just going through those, working through that with the students, making sure the students know exactly where they are and where they're supposed to be. This might include writing letters of recommendation, assisting and organizing standardized testing, college applications, scholarships, all of that stuff. And they work very closely with the post-secondary coaches and the college room personnel. Now that personnel is just at Lanphier and Southeast. And so going forward, after I talk a little bit more about Parchment, my plan is to hopefully start with Springfield High first, so that they'll have an extra set of hands to help them with the Parchment piece, but I'll go into that a little bit later. But the guidance administrators work closely with those people to make sure that students have what they need as they move on to post-secondary education. And they have a host of other duties as assigned. We go ahead with where we are now. Right now, we're at the point where we really need electronic transcript submission. It's just the world that we live in. Everything is done electronically, and I know that I've talked to our guidance staff, and they're ready to move ahead. The training, once the agreement is signed, would go through with the guidance staff, and that would include the clerical, the registrars. Right now, I know someone shared with me that, you know, on any given day, a post-secondary coach could give a registrar 50 applications or for transcripts to be sent, and so that's a lot of, you know, postage stamps and folding and stuffing envelopes and so forth. So this piece is going to really modernize the way we do business. We would have training for parents, and we would also have training for students. The people from ISAC, Illinois Student Assistance Commission, they're ready to come in and just help students get signed up and get their information entered into the system so that they can start moving forward. Again, as I stated earlier, I did meet with the veteran deans back in November, and they are willing to come back and lend a hand in helping to make sure that our guidance staff gets the training that they need, and just to be an extra set of hands. And then, like I said, I've listened to our sitting guidance staff, and didn't want to call out names, but Ms. Watkins called me like the day after we had this presentation and talked about how excited, and she was ready to go, because she knows that in May we're going to have to start sending out transcripts for those seniors right away. And so if we adopt this new Parchment system, we'll be able to just go in and order those up, and they'll be just sitting and holding, so that when those kids get ready to graduate in May, we can pretty much hit the send button and those transcripts can be to their schools in an instant. So when we talk about bringing guidance into the 21st century through this process, ISAT's mission, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission, their mission is that first dot point there is really just making college accessible and affordable for Illinois students, and they work with the College at Illinois Transcript Exchange. It's sponsored by them, and they service 300 colleges and universities. This particular program is easy to implement. The students just simply put in their first and last name, their date of birth, their email address, and they can sit there with their parents and order up their transcripts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they don't have to wait until guidance is open on Monday morning to come in and say that they need a transcript. They can go ahead and get that done anytime they want. There's lots of resources for training, and as I said, they have been nothing but helpful every time I've called them to ask a question about something I wasn't clear on. They even offered to call me. He said, if they have questions, you can just call me tonight. And I said, no, I won't do that during the presentation, but if there are questions that I'm not sure about, I will certainly give you a call. And then there's lots of online support for the administrative staff as well. To talk a little bit about the transcript exchange program, there's 12 states that participate in this program, and all requests are free. They would put an actual button or link on the website for all the schools so that parents can easily access that information to be able to order transcripts for their students. And any electronic receivers in that Midwestern region, those states that are listed, kids can order they can have as many transcripts as they want sent, regardless of whether they're on free or reduced lunch or not, for free, as long as they're in those states. But if we move to the non-MHEC schools, then they would have to pay a $2.55 fee. So that would be like your out-of-state schools and so forth, those other states that are not listed there. However, if they're on free or reduced lunch, they can get up to 4 free waivers, okay? And then the paper-only schools, employers, and other things like that would be the $4.25 fees. And then the training process. So we had the initial webinar in January with about 15 people. There were representatives from all the high schools, the master schedulers, the post-secondary coaches, the guidance secretaries or registrars were present, and we had people from technology. The head secretary was there for the district, just so that we could make sure that we had everything we needed to move forward with this. So it's simply, all they have to do is like when you're downloading a printer in your home, you just install a driver, and I had to learn what that word meant from Brent today. But I had the opportunity to do this at home just recently, so you just kind of download that, and if I can do it, anybody can do it, trust me. And then the training's done through a web room conference line. It's really about an hour with the guidance staff, so we would work with each school and work on their timeline. Of course, I would like to try to get this seniors uploaded by April. That would be my goal. And then work backwards with juniors and sophomores and so on. Schools would have a point of contact to work with. I would be there helping them, and there would be plenty of additional support. And technology said they'd be right there to help as well. The parchment process, again, it can be easily implemented this year. Alumni transcripts, once alumni transcripts are uploaded, they pretty much don't have to do anything else. The registrar doesn't, other than to approve it, like click a button to approve it. So that's going to be a huge time savings, whereas now when alumni call in and they need a transcript, the registrar has to go through all of that process, pull the transcript, stamp it, you know, fold it, put it in the envelope, and all of that. It's done. There's no printing and no signing, none of that. So it's going to be a huge time savings for those people. Additional information on the process at the end of the school year. Again, like I said earlier, when graduates are needing those final transcripts sent, we can go ahead and put those in now, and they can sit out there and be pending, and then we can click a button. May 29th, I think it is now, is our last day, and those will be there, and we have a way to track them. Right now, we put them in the mail, and we have no idea whether they got there or not unless we pick up the phone and call the school. So we'll know. Parents will be able to track as well as students. Parchment double checks to make sure that all the requests match up with their student information system number and all of that. And then there's always some students that, right before college, they realize they forgot maybe to order that transcript or whatever, and it's if they're already there at college, they could order that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we can get it to them in no time. And then they'll have the ability to do that by credit or debit card as well. And the people that qualify for College Board and or ACT waivers will qualify for the parchment fee as well. Students that need a fee waiver, schools will be able to designate and assign those to those students. And then once they have 4 fee waivers, that's the cap for parchment, but our schools always figure out ways to make things work for our kids if they need more. And then for the 6th semester, this is the huge piece that parchment or ISAC really wants it for, is that 6th semester enrollment info that's uploaded to them so that they can get the names of the state scholars, the Illinois State Scholars. They're typically the top 10% of the students at each school, and they have a special formula that they use for that. And students are recognized and sent letters. The letters are typically sent to the schools, and they'll be recognized in May, both at the recognition assemblies and usually on the program at their high school graduation. And scholars are given priority and consideration when they are applying to colleges and universities. And so we are proud that we have 81 Illinois State Scholars in our district, and I didn't want to let the cat out of the bag since I want them to be surprised at graduation and recognition assembly. And so pretty much that's it. And so once you sign, or once we fill out the registration information, we can start the very next day and getting the training. And so I'm really excited about us moving forward in our guidance department with this piece.
I know you looked into some other companies that were a little bit more costly. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, we checked out Naviance, and that program, we worked with some of the area schools and just kind of called around just to kind of get their feel on it, and they liked that program. The difference between that and this is that Naviance has kind of everything in a one-stop shop. They did give us some quotes of about, do you want me to share those? Okay, about $26,000 a year, whereas this is free. But I mean, it's a comparable program. And then we have some other things that we use along with ISAC, which is the career cruising that's free, from ROCT, Regional Office of Career and Technical Education pays for that for our schools. And then we also have Overgrad, which is free. What I really like about Overgrad is one of our neighboring superintendents shared that their son uploaded their information into the system, their grade point average, all their classes, GPA, and all of that. And then the system goes out and grabs all these colleges from really around the world, and based on the information that student put in the system, then it let them know that they found that they were able and qualified to go to Princeton. And they were just planning on going to maybe like the U of I or state school, and so it really kind of opened up some new doors for them. So I really kind of like that program, and it's free.
And it's a part of Parchment, the Overgrad and the...
They all work, yes.
And the career cruising.
Yes, they all work together, yes. So,
Well, I thank you for putting the research together, and I know that you had talked too about just continuing your work with the guidance teams on. So, do you want to share to that a little bit? Or?
So my plan is to, if you all agree to allow us to do this, is to get Parchment started. I'd like to get training towards the end of March for my guidance staff. I'd like to give them let them get their feet wet with the park piece first before I give them something new. But I'd like to get them trained towards the end of March, and I would like to get seniors enrolled in April. At the end of May, I would like the ICAC, the college room people, and the post-secondary coaches to come back and present to you about all of their numbers and students that they've talked to and the scholarships and all of that information for this year. And then I'd like to have some additional summer training with the guidance staff, just kind of reviewing transcripts and advising and counseling and really shoring up, just how we do business, just kind of making sure that we have that consistency in that, and just making sure everybody is clear on how to do that.
I checked with our legal department, and we don't really have to have board approval for this. It's a free program, so we wanted to bring it to your attention tonight and go ahead and get that signed and give it a shot. And if we use this for a year and it's not legally binding that we have to use it for a certain amount of time, since there's no fees attached. And if we're not impressed with it, we can look at the next program. But I did have an opportunity to talk to some other districts that use Parchment, and also some people who do some college placement in our community as well, and they say Parchment works very well. It's reliable. I even had a chance to talk to a guidance secretary that said they can't wait because they can look up and say, did we send that, and what date did we send that? If there's any question, there'll be an electronic kind of an overview of what's done when. Am I right?
Right.
And so it'll be a way that we can check, or if a school says they haven't gotten something, we can check back in the system and tell them the date that it was sent and all of those those
Yes.
things, right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, the program may be free, but, training has been mentioned. So are there any dollars that need to go towards training?
Administrators or other duties as assigned, we're on
Okay.
deck to get our training anytime we need it.
Okay. All right.
I have a few questions. Thanks, Mrs. Morrison. I really appreciate this. I have a list of questions, actually. Okay, I want to understand this Parchment thing. So, do the students input this information? I don't get this piece. How is the information? Do we have staff that's going to have to spend time loading the stuff?
It won't be a lot of loading, but it's just students just going in and putting their information in just to order. And we want them and their parents to be aware of, like I said, it's just really them putting in their name, their date of birth, their email address. It's very minimal. And then in order to order, we want the parents and the students trained on it. And so that when they are out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that they know how to do this. And so it won't take much time at all. And they're willing to come in actually and work hands-on with the students to get this done. As far as the training for the staff, we're looking at an hour, couple hours maybe, tops.
Another school that I talked to brought in each of the students into, they went into like each of the English classes and had them set it up and had computers available for them so that they could set up their accounts. Or another school brought them down to the cafeteria, had a few classes come together, and they had adults there to go around and help them. But it is all in accordance with all the FERPA laws and also the FAFSA, which is the way that we get student aid. They all work together and all those things.
And once we get all the classes currently enrolled, as freshman classes come in, it'll be much easier. We could even do that as part of Freshman Forward and just start to get their information in the system. So it shouldn't take much class time.
And the $2.55 for the students, because I'm used to sending in the envelope with the dollar and the flap. Okay, how are we billing that? Is that going to be billed on their student accounts? You said credit or debit cards?
The parents can pay by credit or debit, or if the students bring money into the guidance office, then the schools will pay that directly to Parchment.
Okay, and I assume, because you've talked to Mr. Qualls, our current system can take this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. An issue, and I know Mrs. Gill, I've spoken with you about this. Lanphier and Southeast both have resources that Springfield High School does not,
Right.
in terms of the ICAC, the college room. What are we doing to address that inequity?
What I would like to do with this particular system is, once I get everybody trained, then Lanphier and Southeast will have those additional set of hands. So I would like to send the ISAP people to Springfield High to kind of help in that regard, at least starting this process. And then going forward, we can work together to talk more about how we can better support Springfield with that.
Jump in if anybody else has a question. This is an issue that I feel very strongly about. Okay, I have one other question. I want to understand the current structure that we have. The way we work it now, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have a freshman guidance dean like Mrs. Gordy. You'll start with my child in the fall, and you will follow her till she graduates, right? Is that the theory?
Well, that at Springfield High,
I want to
wanna-
understand how this works, because I have some thoughts on
Okay.
how.
Why don't you just walk through each of the high schools
okay.
and tell them how?
So at Springfield High, they do have the freshmen, and it's been that way for quite some time at Springfield High. They have the freshmen,
So you stay fresh.
and she stays
Okay.
there.
Okay.
And then as they move to sophomore, junior, and senior year, then those people rotate through with their class. And then when the new class set of freshmen, she kind of really gives them a good feel for what high school life is going to be like. Now, the other two schools, they do rotate through freshmen, and they follow their kids all the way through.
Have we given some thought, and I know it was this way a couple of years ago because I've had another child go through here, where we have the junior and senior people, they're experts in juniors and seniors, and they know testing, they know scholarship applications that need to get in, they know all those kinds of things. Do we?
I think, and I had that conversation with somebody, I think there's something to be said for that. What I like about the model of rotating through with the students is like the experience that I had, that you really get to know the students. But I do understand what you mean is in terms of things change at a particular grade level over time. So when you do move with those students, once you become the junior or the senior dean, you might have to relearn some things or some new things that have come into play. So I know that at one time there was a model, I guess, where they took a part of the alphabet or whatever, and then they rotated through. That way they were able to really still able to get to know those kids, as well as learn and stay current with those trends based on that grade level. So it's certainly something we could look at, because I agree with you. There's something to be said for having that knowledge base as well.
I'm
I
going to
would
jump in here. So I'm kind of confused. You said there's 4 guidance deans, but they're assistant principals. They're not guidance deans on paper. And then we have an individual at each school. Those are classified as the guidance deans, correct?
Well, you notice I've been saying guidance staff because when I came up, there were guidance deans, and then there was an assistant principal in the guidance area. Now there are assistant principals, and there's one guidance dean at each school. And then some schools are even using an intern to do guidance duties. So it could be any one of those.
So I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Your recommendation, if I'm asking you, you're like the superintendent right now. So I kind of like the old school system, how we had the 3 guidance deans, you had your 1 assistant principal in there. Would you feel that would work better today, or do you like the new system? And then the second question, I guess, no, go ahead and answer that one if you could.
Okay.
What, I mean, this is you and I talking. I mean, there's no one else here.
Regardless of what the title is within the guidance department, I personally would like to see somebody, like a go-to person, and I have that right now.
Okay.
For example, at the high schools, I have one person that I email everything. I talk to them about everything, and I expect them to get it out to the rest of the staff. In terms of having that one person to just kind of shore up and check on things at the schools, that's kind of what I had when I came up, and I think that's helpful. That one person that can check on everything. So regardless of what their title is, if there's that one person, and I've kind of tried to do my best to kind of establish that from this level.
Okay, and then I kind of like would have like the same system at each high school. I think that's where I kind of get confused. That's me. I don't understand why each school is different. I mean, this is administration in general. Who handles discipline? It's all different.
Right.
And so I guess I mean that's up to the superintendent, and that's where I'm kind of concerned at.
Let me follow up on this, because I think this is where the confusion is. We have assistant principals on paper that are doing guidance
Yes.
work, right?
Yes.
Okay, and they're responsible for a grade level, generally, or not necessarily?
Generally, yes.
Okay. And I think that's where our confusion lies, because I think we see the high schools having one guidance team, and we just figure they're responsible for all of this, when in fact they're not really. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Just for paper reasons. Or pay reasons.
Well, and what I'm understanding is that a few years back, we made some changes
Right.
in our district.
Right.
And we're
Before-
still living that same change. We haven't made any changes in the last 8 months.
Before this
I've been
board was here,
around.
that change was
Right.
done. So that's my point.
So things changed a little bit during that time, and we were doing the, and Mr. Wynn, I see you back there, and some others, that's when we were doing the academy model, and the theory was there would be these different academies, and there would be an AP and kind of handling all of the people within that academy. Am I correct? And slowly but surely, we've kind of gone back and eased back from that model. Am I right? And so we still have our existing titles in a structure that no longer really exists. So what I think I hear is that at the pleasure of the board, I might be able to explore and talk with all of my administrative staff and see what might make sense. Am I right?
And their
Am I hearing that?
current title is assistant principal also allows them to help with that evaluation piece too, so,
Right.
whereas we have not.
And that was another reason, I think, for the change was that the evaluation system changed in the state of Illinois, and it became time-consuming, more
Yes.
rigorous on the time and the detail that we put into those. And so having more people, a little bit broader staff to go through
Right.
and do those was helpful at the time. Because in the past, the guidance dean title did not evaluate.
Right, and still.
And they
does
still
not.
don't in middle
That
school.
is correct.
So we're clear. Every administrator at the high school level will be trained on
Yes,
part-time.
sir.
Okay.
Every guidance, but I think all need to be trained in it, including our disciplinarians, because you never know when you might have to step in and help. So I think, while we have the training, everybody should be knowledgeable.
I have a question.
Yes.
about this board. I know a lot of students, including myself, use the Common App, and we had our guidance team send documents electronically through there. So if we were to have all the seniors using this program by May, would it just serve as another option to send those documents?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, another option.
But you might need to communicate that if you wanted it to go through the other app, just good communication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions, Mrs.
No,
Finnegan?
I really thank you for bringing this information out, and communication is a good way to end this. I think this will require a lot of communication with parents on how this is going to work, and I think starting with the freshmen is a good idea, because you need to start thinking about the college stuff as early as possible. And I would like you to come back if you get this up and running. And I have a senior, so I'll give you some personal feedback on how it works. But I'd like some feedback on how it's working in May
Okay.
with sending out these final transcripts and how we think this system's going to work for next year's seniors.
And we
Thank
also
you.
have freshmen next year, don't we?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on now to business reports.
Mr. Basco? He's stepping to the podium.
I'm gonna be here a while, so
Yeah, I know.
let's move over this way.
I've asked Mr. Basco to come with a couple things for you today. So he's going to do his basic financial report first, so let's get that out of the way. And then I'm going to have you speak to some financing options. And then after that, I'll have you talk about the phone systems that we're using and some options. And for those two reports tonight, they're just informational. You can ask questions tonight. You can pose questions to me throughout the week, and then at the next board meeting, we'll move forward on both of those.
Okay. President Zimmers, members of the board, attached to your documents is a summary of the revenue and expenditures for the month of February 2015 for the education and the operations and maintenance fund. You also have an accounts receivables outstanding report. And as of February, outstanding state payments total $3.9 million. For the month of February, education fund revenues were $3.4 million and expenditures were $8.4 million. Expenditures exceeded revenues by $5 million. In the operations and maintenance fund, revenues were $15,100 and expenditures were $983,100, with expenditures exceeding revenues by $968,000.
Any questions?
Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is about some financing options that we may need to look into based on what happens with state categorical payments. I've also got Tammy Beck with Shawmo from PMA is here if we have any questions regarding the bonds. So basically, since over the last few months we've been hearing that we may not get our last two state categorical payments. We're not quite sure if that means they'll be delayed or if we'll never receive them. So we've been looking at options that we may need to make. Right now, we don't need to make any specific decisions until May, so we have a couple more months to look at things, see how things are going for us, see what we may hear from the state. It may be that we don't have to do anything. We may have to do one of these options. Worst case scenario, we may have to do both. I think if we get if we find out we're going to get two categorical payments and we'll get both of those by June 1, I think we'll be fine and we won't have to do either of these things. Last year we received our second categorical in March, our third in April, and then our fourth in June. So they have over the last couple years caught up pretty drastically in the spring. So our first option, it's the easier option, and that would be simply to increase our line of credit from $22 million to $25 million. I've spoken with Bank of Springfield. It's something that they would be willing to do for us on that. The major issue with that is that 25, if we had to borrow up to the $25 million, that would use up most of our June large tax payment, which is about probably $27 to $28 million. So we'd probably have to turn around then and start another line of credit in July or August, whereas currently we haven't needed to use it until the spring. So that's the big downside of that. We're just constantly in a loop of borrowing and repaying, borrowing and repaying. So it'd be great if we could at some point avoid that. The second option is to sell working cash bonds, and the working cash fund is basically a fund where we've sold bonds in the past, and it's there just to loan money to other funds for cash flow purposes. You'll see tonight on your agenda we're repaying and reborrowing to 4 of those funds. The nice thing about this is it would permanently be our money. We wouldn't have to pay it back. We would always have it there to use, and it would also allow us to reduce our line of credit into the future. This money cannot be used for any type of purchase or for salaries. It's there simply for cash flow, working cash purposes. In 2 weeks, we're going to bring a couple of resolutions to you. In one of those resolutions, we're going to ask permission to sell $10 million worth of working cash bonds. We don't think we'll be. Right now we're thinking if we do need to sell them, it will be for $5 million, but we'll ask for the $10 million, and what that will do then, that will allow us for up to 3 years, we can sell that other $5 million in working cash bonds without having to go through the entire process again. It would not significantly this would not raise taxes. What it would do, it would just be the payments would just be incorporated into our current debt structure and paid off that way. And it would not take away from our ability to issue health, life, safety bonds in the future. We have plenty of debt margin for that. On the working cash side, by law, we're allowed to have up to $55 million, up to $71 million in that fund. So we have $55 million that we could theoretically issue in working cash. And then overall, the district debt limit is $267.2 million. And since we really haven't issued a debt compared to a lot of school districts and other government entities, our current debt is $69.8 million. So we have still the margin to borrow up to $197.4 million. The timetable for the working cash bonds is, as I said, in 2 weeks. We would bring 2 resolutions, one for the resolution of intent to issue working cash bonds, and a resolution calling for a bond issue notification act hearing. That would put an ad in the paper. On April 6th, we would have that hearing, and that would open up time for public comment on the sale of the bonds. At the May 4th board meeting, if we decided we still needed to do this, the board would adopt a parameter resolution authorizing us to sell the bonds. The reason we're waiting until May the 4th for that resolution is that the current board can only sell the bonds that they've been authorized. So since Mr. McFarland will be leaving us, if we approved it on April 16th, we'd only have 2 weeks to make the decision and start the bond sale.
There we go, screwing things up again.
That's okay.
Hopefully we'll know something by the state by then, too.
Hopefully. So then, we would, if we needed to go forward, around May 15th, we'd sell the working cash bonds and then have the money to the district sometime in early June to use.
And we have to start talking about this now so that we can get all of
So
that
that
done.
we can all that done, right.
In order to do that by June, which is when we think we'll need
Right,
that money.
right. And the working cash or the line of credit extension could be held off probably until that decision, the second payment, or first board meeting in June.
Any questions?
Couple things. Historically, what has our debt margin looked like? Is this lower than usual? Or is it where we've usually been?
I think it's probably where we've usually been. It's probably been a little bit lower before we sold some working cash bonds in 9 and 10.
Okay.
I'd have to go back to get exact as to where we might have been.
And comparatively, where are we at compared to like-sized districts around the state in terms of their margin?
That's a question for Mrs. Beck. Yeah, is there one?
There's one right over there.
The amount of debt the district has outstanding is considered to be moderate. So you have a significant amount of debt margin compared to not only districts in general throughout the state, but certainly districts of your size. Yes.
So we're in a good place. is what you're saying.
We're in a good place, yes. In terms, you have flexibility to issue debt for different purposes, and not all districts even have that capability.
Any other? Okay. 6.3, phone system recommendation.
Okay, is Mr. This is going to help with this too,
Brent?
or are you going to?
Well, yeah, we had a little confusion there. I thought Brent was going to do it, and Brent thought I was going to do it, so.
I think you should both do it.
So
then.
we're both going to do it.
It's my favorite.
I will do the PowerPoint, and then Brent can answer the hard questions.
All right.
Yeah.
So once again, this is a report that's going to talk about updating our phone systems across the district into a more, it's called VoIP, or Internet Phone Service, and the savings that it will allow us to have, right? Okay.
So, as I said, we've been talking about, we're looking at buying a new phone system for the entire district. Didn't realize it, but today we found a folder that said VoIP from 2005. So we've been talking about this thinking about this for quite some time. So you can go to the next one, Julie. And then for this request for proposal, we issued the RFP on December 8th this past year. We put notification of the RFP on the district website through the E-rate notification system, and then we also notified 33 vendors who we had contacted last year from our RFP distribution list. From that RFP, we had 12 vendors who responded, and we held interviews over 3 days with 6 vendors. We did that a couple of weeks ago. Why VoIP? One big reason for VoIP at this point in time is we're kind of being pushed into it a little bit. The telephone industry is changing from an analog platform to a digital platform, much like your televisions did a few years ago. Our costs for analog services are rapidly increasing. They're kind of forcing you out of the analog just by pricing you out of it. Currently, analog systems are in place at all district locations except for the auxiliary building, and we have varying features building to buildings. Some have voicemail, some don't. Handsets are different. So we really have quite an array across the district. Also, the FCC is phasing out their E-rate reimbursement for the local and long-distance voice services. That's coming over the next 3 or 4 years. With this VoIP system proposal, all the buildings will have the same features. Everything will be tied together. We're looking at doing a lease purchase on the system for 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, we have a $1 buyout. This district will own the system, and at that point in time, we'll see the really significant savings for the district. VoIP system is expected to last at least 10 years. We have systems that are probably 15 at least. So we have two different options, and option one, Julie, let's go ahead and flip that. So option one is a full VoIP system. The pros for that system are everything's unified, connected, efficient across the district. It really has enhanced notifications to classrooms, and Brent can talk more about that. And then also all phones in all offices and all classrooms will have consistent layout and feature set. Everybody will be the same. The pros for option two are it's less expensive, the implementation is much more simple, and also we could just, in the classrooms, we could use existing equipment because we would not be buying new handsets for the classrooms. The cons, for the full VoIP system, it's more expensive, and we can't guarantee that we'll have full deployment to all the classrooms at the start of next school year. We'll be okay on offices, we're just not sure that we can get them into every single classroom. The other con for option two, even though it's less expensive, we don't have those emergency notifications. It'd be 5 years before we were able to upgrade, just from a cost standpoint, and then we'd continue to have variable features in our classrooms. So for the costs, we try to do a comparison as to where we would be as far as expenses. As you can see in the at the top there, the phone system for our current system, and we estimated a 10% increase, or roughly $25,000 increase for phone system charges for our current system over the next 10 years. So as we go down, if you go down to the bottom, we have all the costs there. The first year, we think it is going to cost more. It's going to cost about $65,000 more to go to this option. The second year really is a break-even point. Third, fourth, and fifth year, we start to see greater savings. The real savings come then in year 6 through 10, when we don't have to buy the system. Phone charges are much less, and as you can see then in year 6 through 10, we're estimating our savings for those 5 years of $1.6 million. And then the option two costing is very similar. It's just it's not as expensive, but the savings are still there. We actually start saving a little bit, break even the first year and start saving the second year on that.
So, just real quick, some of the features that we, difference between option 1 and 2. Well, option 1 would give us new phone handsets in all of the classrooms throughout the district. One of the advantages to that is for paging purposes, so that if we had an emergency message we needed to get out, we could message that onto those phones, all in just a simple matter of seconds. And also, it also would include some enhancements as far as emergency calling. If somebody picks up the handset, dials 911, we have some features there. You can conference people in, it can automatically do call recording and those kinds of features. We lose some of that when we go to the option 2 because of the restrictions on the analog, the existing phone systems that we have. And plus option 2, if we use the existing handsets, we'll be spending money on equipment that will eventually be phased out and won't be obsolete. Right, but yeah.
Well, first a comment. You mentioned 2005 folder. We've been talking about VoIP every single year I've been here. And so, based on this, I'm assuming in not moving forward with VoIP when we should have several years ago, we probably lost some money in the deal. And so, if not, we haven't gained anything. So I would recommend strongly that we look at moving towards the system. I also want to point out, just based on projections, yes, in the first 5 years, the difference between option 1 and option 2 is about $200,000, $197,000. But when we get to the 10-year projections, we're talking of a difference of only $54,000 over the course of 10 years to get the option 1. So to me, that makes perfect sense to go for the full system. You're going to need it anyway. If not, you're going to have to upgrade the analog down the road anyway. And you're talking a difference of $5,000 a year to do that. That makes perfect sense to me. So I guess that wasn't really a question. Just comments.
I've got a couple questions. I like the system. I have it in my office, so I know exactly how it works. But I have two concerns. I know I talked to Ms. Gill about this. Internet goes down. Phones don't work. Where's the phone calls go? Because I know my office, same way. Internet goes down, filters right over to our home office. So, internet goes down in the building. Where do those phone calls go?
Well, in each location, we will have what we call survivability, so that there will be at least two phone lines in existing type of phone lines in each one of those buildings. So you'll be limited on service, but if somebody picks up the phone and dials 911, that call will get out and get to where it needs to go. Now, so it'll be two phone lines servicing the whole building, so not everybody would be able to do that, but certainly the first two could do that. So we'll call that, it will still give them phone capability.
Okay. And then on the voicemail's like how my system works. They leave a voicemail, it goes to voicemail goes straight to my email, so I know I have a voicemail. Is that an option under this plan?
Yes.
So basically our teachers will have it all set up. If they get a voicemail left from a parent, it will shoot them an email. They have a voicemail and all that.
Yes.
Nice.
We're currently using that feature in our system at Stanton.
Up to 8 devices, right?
Yeah.
Is that option 1 or option 2? Or
Option 1.
Up to how many? An individual person could have 8, did you say 8
Yes,
devices?
8 devices is the message could go to.
Oh, so, okay.
No, they have to check the voicemail. Do we have to negotiate that?
We want to talk about that tonight. You get the system in first.
I have a question about the bandwidth. Will our bandwidth be able to support this?
Yes, within our existing structure.
Within?
Yes. Because it really, the bandwidth between our buildings is fine. It's more when we go out to the internet. But this system will not use outside calls going over our internet connection.
Okay. And what about the security of the system? Any possibility of anything being compromised, eavesdropping?
Well, we'll take every precaution for that. We'll put it behind a firewall and make sure that we've done the standards that we need to prevent that.
Okay.
Yes.
And possibility of the district incurring charges from third parties unknowingly being charged. Is that something? I was just checking on the internet, and these are just some things that popped up.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, and we'll still have the ability to call anyone, even if they don't have this type of a system?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen.
Right, and so at the next board meeting, we'll come with a proposal for option 1? Is that what we're hearing? And I just have to say, Rick, you're going to love it because, Mr. Sanders, because this will add to our security system across our district as well. It'll be another added feature that we can utilize and have in our safety plans, and ways to communicate to classrooms to communicate to us, ways to get messages out to a whole school. It's very effective. I worked with the system at Unit 5, and it was a very different type of system. It's really user-friendly. Thank you. Thanks for all the work you guys did. I know you did a lot of work on the RFPs. I appreciate it greatly.
Okay, now on to 7.1, Superintendent's Report.
All right, we've had a lot of reports tonight, so I think I'll wrap it up pretty quick tonight. I don't think that I need to go into a lot of detail. A couple shout-outs. Congratulations to Franklin Middle School. They took first place in the regional math counts competition, so I know they worked really hard on that, and we're proud of it. Also, shout-out to Matheny, Withrow, and Southeast High School, and many, I think some of them left, but they had hosted a Saturday Internet Cafe, and Southeast National Honor Society students actually assisted the elementary students by helping them build their confidence, becoming familiar with the upcoming park tests through using the internet, and that will begin tomorrow in our district, or mostly on Thursday. So we were excited to have them go over and help, kind of reaching out to a local elementary school to do that. Also, we had a great park family event. Shout out to Peggy Cormany for everyone who assisted in making that a really great night. We had a FACE team from every single school in our district, and that consisted of administrators, teachers, and parents coming together to learn about the park. It was called It's All About the Park, and it was in the Commons area at Springfield High. They hosted us, so that was great. And that's sort of kicking off into my report that we had a little, snow day interruption today, or ice day, I should say. Two things were going on in the district and made my decision even more difficult this morning at 4:30. Was that when you called me, Mr. Shaver? It was about that. So my family had a great night's sleep last night. Yes, good morning. Good morning. You have a major decision to make in 5 minutes. Yes. But we did have the ACT. I joke because that's the only thing I can do to get through these decisions. But the ACT that we give to every junior in our district free of charge through the state of Illinois was to start today. We will still give day 2 tomorrow, and that's called the Work Keys Assessment, which is really a college and career readiness assessment. Has nothing to do with the actual ACT assessment. They're two separate entities. So they're going to go ahead and give the work keys tomorrow, and then our makeup date for the ACT will be on March 17th, and that was already allotted for just in case something like this were to happen. And that we called into ISB today, as well as every other district around us, and made that provision. So March 17th, juniors, you don't get out of taking the ACT. You still have to do that. And then we were to start the park assessment today. And once again, we have a large window. So it's not testing every day, all day. We have a large window to get through the various assessments. So March 4th through 27th is that window. Only about half the schools were even going to start today. Some of them were not really wanting to get started, the day after a 3-day weekend. Elementary schools are mostly testing just 1 grade level per week. So there will be many options for both our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade to do the makeups. And that we needed in the schedule anyway for students who just become ill or are not present at school and miss that assessment. We needed to have those makeup days, so they're there. And the high schools are testing starting next week anyway, so we didn't have to worry about that. And middle schools are testing mostly over the last 3 weeks, and then the first 2 weeks, and then doing the makeup the 3rd week. I talked to them today. Most of them are not going to start tomorrow because we do have our early out Wednesday tomorrow, but we'll kick that off on Thursday. So, the schools were fine with it. They had an action plan in place because this time of year, living in Illinois, we always know we need a backup plan. So everything's going to be just fine in terms of giving the park assessment and the ACT. The other two things that I did this week that I just wanted to reach out and share and bring more information back to you at a later date, I had the opportunity to go and spend a half day at Lincoln Prairie Health Services, and then I spent the other half day on that same day at Capital Area Career Center. I had an opportunity to work with Tom DeMarco at Lincoln Prairie Health Services. That's a place where students that are suffering from mental health concerns can go and get services right here in our own community. We're very fortunate to have that right here in Springfield, where families don't have to travel or have students staying away from their homes for long periods of time. We often have students that are housed in those programs, and we're providing a teacher that helps them get through their days so that they're not missing their schoolwork and can keep up to date. And I was just impressed by the facility. It's in the old doctor's hospital out by Lee School, and just very impressed with the work that they're doing there, the different types of programs that they have to serve students, and our students specifically, as well as many from across the state. So they have students that travel down from Chicago, from different areas where they are away from home, and we have that right here in our own community. So we're continuing to work together and think outside the box about how we can really merge our programs and work together to provide services for students. So very impressed with Tom and his staff that they introduced me and walked me through the whole program and talked about all their services, and it was an interesting day for me. So many times as a principal or any of us sitting in our central office staff or teachers, we hear about students who are receiving services there, but we haven't actually visited the program and see what it really looks like. So my plan of action is to have my cabinet attend a meeting. We're going to have one of our cabinet meetings there at the school and be able to do that so they can also see the services and be able to understand the things that they're giving back to our school district in ways that we may not even know. In the afternoon, I went to the Capital Area Career Center and saw the same type of programming, met with Jody Farrell, their director, and got to see all the programs that they have in action, serving almost 300 of our students on a daily basis that are interested in career and kind of career opportunity coursework. They often attend half day with us and then go and spend half day at the Capital Area Career Center. And so she's actually asked the opportunity to come and present to the board, talk a little bit about their programming, how we work together, and how our students can gateway into programs there, or we can work together within our schools. So I'm excited to bring that opportunity to you, and it really kind of fits in with our guidance and course selection conversation that we had earlier this evening. So that's really the end of my update tonight. I just wanted to share a few of those highlights. And thank you for all of the opportunities to bring additional topics back to you that you mentioned tonight, and we'll do that. I think what I heard was we want a little update on our school dress code. We want to make sure that we bring our policy committee back in place, and we also want to have a little update on Southeast High School and their career academy that they have there with the Health Life Safety, or Health Services Department. Health Life Safety is working fast. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to consent action items. 8.1 through 8.10.
Okay. I recommend the approval of the consent action items 8.2 through 8.10 as described in the corresponding resolutions.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Lopez,
Present.
McFarland,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Zimmers,
Aye.
Thunderbird.
Aye.
That is 4 aye votes and noted present. The motion carries.
Okay, now on to roll call action items, 9.1.
Mrs. Sherman?
President Zimmers and members of the board, the superintendent recommends adoption of the personnel recommendations with the following changes. Pages 1 through 4, letter A, certified and classified resignations, releases. All resignations and releases with the end date of May 28th, 2015 should be changed to May 29th, 2015 to reflect the additional snow day. Page 5, letter B, number 2, work day for the 2014-15 school year should be 57 days to reflect the additional snow day. And page 5, letter D, number 1, ending date of FMLA should be changed to March 16th, 2015.
And the other changes were made as well. Okay.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
That was taken care of, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
That is 5 aye votes. The motion carries.
9.2.
Mr. Shaver?
Thank you, President Zimmers, members of the board. The superintendent recommends adopting the following resolution. I'm going to shorthand this a little bit. Whereas the Board of Education has previously approved a bid from the contractor below, and whereas the architect for the project has recommended approval of a change order, and whereas sufficient funds exist to provide payment for the additional requested amount, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education approves the following change order and directs the superintendent to execute the necessary documents on behalf of the board. And that scope of work for that change order was for Isle School, change order number 2, in the amount of $47,387.63 to John Poe Construction. And that scope is, it was to install some vent piping that was actually missing from when we went to replace some plumbing fixtures. They didn't have vent piping, which is required by code. Done years ago, obviously, and so we corrected that. And then there was also some additional electrical work to incorporate the new ductwork and piping that we installed.
Okay, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Moore.
Aye.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
That is 5 aye votes. The motion carries.
Okay, 9.3, student discipline.
President Zimmers, members of the board, it is my recommendation that one 8th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Franklin Middle School through the end of the 2014-15 school year with a program, and that one 9th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Springfield High School through the end of the first semester of the 2015-16 school year with a program.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote.
Zimmers.
Aye.
Funderburg.
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
McFarland.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
That is 5 aye votes. The motion carries.
Okay, does anybody else have anything they need to say before we end? I'd like to thank everyone for coming. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be Monday, March 16th at 6:30 in the boardroom. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.